Before we get into the video, I just wanted to thank you guys for getting me to 3,000 subscribers. It means a ton. But just in case you haven't already, if you enjoy my content, it would mean a lot to me if you hit that subscribe button, because only about 3% of the people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you want to be part of that elite 3% that actually subscribe, hit that button. You guys are the best. Thanks for watching and enjoy the video. Hey guys, what's up? You're watching Clique, and today we're going to be looking at the glorious Model O wireless. This was not sent out for review, and this is from my own personal experiences with the Model O wireless. This is Glorious's first attempt at a wireless mouse, and I think for most people this can be an easy recommendation if you're looking to get your first wireless gaming mouse. The Model O wireless comes in at $80, making it priced just a little bit lower than its competition, with the Aerox 3 wireless coming in at $100, the G Pro Superlight coming in at $150, and the Viper Ultimate also coming in at $150 if you get the charging dock, $130 without the dock. Combine that with the already good shape of the Model O, its wireless performance, its solid feet, and good crispy clicks that you get from the arm-on switches, and you've got yourself a pretty good deal. But there is more to this mouse than just those things, so let's get into it. Starting off with the packaging, you're going to get the mouse, of course, the wireless receiver, a wireless extender, or a quick start guide, and a couple of extra stickers inside of the packaging. Overall, the packaging was good. It also comes with a USB Type-C cable that you can plug into the front of the mouse and charge your mouse while you're using it. It's a good charger, but I don't know why they added extra prongs onto the top of the mouse. It didn't really seem necessary, and I've actually tried plugging it in with a different type of USB connection and it still worked. So I don't know why they put these prongs in it, maybe just for added stability. The cable itself is light and flexible. It isn't like the best paracord you can get, and just stayed out of my way. The point of tension is pretty low. The Model O wireless comes in at 69 grams, which isn't on that super low end of wireless gaming mice when we have mice like the G Pro Superlight coming in at around 62 or 63 grams. This is a little bit lighter though than the Viper Ultimate, which is around 74 grams. It is a good alternative. I think the shape is very similar to the Viper Ultimate. In addition to that, the Model O wireless, like I mentioned earlier, is cheaper, about $50 cheaper than that mouse. The mouse comes with 7 buttons, mouse 1 and 2 buttons, a scroll wheel button, a DPI button under the scroll wheel. You also get the side buttons on this mouse. In addition to that, you also get a power on and power off button on the bottom of the mouse. Mouse 1 and 2 buttons do use the Omron 20mm switches. They are very common. They use these same switches on the Model O. Overall though, they do feel a lot better on the Model O wireless, since they did make a lot of changes from the original Model O to the Model O wireless, as far as removing a lot of that play on the triggers. The actual triggers themselves have almost no pre-travel and a decent amount of post-travel if you really try to depress the mouse. So here's a little sound test of the buttons on the mouse. Shifting over to the side buttons, there is a little bit of pre-travel on these side buttons, not a lot, just a tiny bit. And then there is also a little bit of post-travel as well, but there is a stopping point where I can definitely feel that they did reinforce the inside of the mouse to make it stop once you are pressing it. Usually the problem I have with side buttons depressing too far is that it'll feel like it can go too far into the side of the mouse. On the Model O wireless, it definitely feels like they took precautions to make these side buttons not depress too far into the mouse and not have any issues with that. And I can press these really hard and not have to worry about those breaking. The position of the mouse buttons are also good, with my thumb kind of naturally resting in between both of these side buttons, not too far in the front or the back. I can easily hit them. I never had a problem hitting the buttons when I was playing, and they do feel comfortable. I do always wish that they were just a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, but as far as actually using them in game, there is no real issue with that. I just do prefer the side buttons to be a little bit bigger on the side of the mouse. And they do come out of the mouse just a little bit. They aren't super flat up against the mouse, so that is very nice, but they do stick out of the mouse enough that you won't lose track of them or not be able to hit them on the side of your mouse. Looking at the scroll wheel, there is a little bit of looseness, it feels like. Not anything that actually affect my in-game performance, but for the most part it is pretty good. Like I said, in-game performance this really would not affect me, but as far as something that like comes up in a review, it is something that I do want to mention, and it is something that I did notice. It is pretty silent, it is rubberized and has kind of larger grooves, but they are solid, and I actually like the scroll wheel a lot. It's not my favorite. There is a tiny bit of resistance when you scroll. The scroll wheel overall is solid. Comparing the side button clicks to the scroll wheel clicks, I would say that the side button clicks are louder and just have a more like pingy sound to them than the scroll wheel, which makes a more lower pitch sound, and it is also not as loud as the side button. Moving on to this sensor, it comes with their new BAMF sensor, and as far as my performance with that, it's the same to me as a 3360. I really did not feel a difference, and that's just because gaming mice at this point, I feel like the sensors are just good on a lot of these gaming mice. The Logitech sensors with their Hero sensors and the TrueMove sensors on the SteelSeries mouse, at least like the new Air sensor they put on the Aerox 3 wireless, it is really good, and the sensor has never deterred me away from a mouse as far as like, oh, I'm gonna pick up this mouse over that mouse just because this mouse has a better sensor. That's never really been a concern for me, thankfully, so that is great. I care more about the actual shape, the feet, the cable when I'm using a wired mouse, of course, and the actual triggers themselves and how they feel, and the side buttons, scroll wheel looseness, and things like that are a lot more important to me than the sensor, just because the sensors are really good on a lot of these mice, and that's never really a concern for me. So that is something that I also did want to mention. Whether I was playing a more tactical competitive shooter like Valorant, where I have to hit flick shots or track enemies with a spray weapon, or I was playing Fortnite where I was just cranking my mouse in circles or making fast movements and micro adjustments, it did track my movements really well regardless of the game I was playing, and I did have a really good experience with Glorious's new sensor. Checking out the dimensions of the Model O wireless, it has a length of 128 millimeters, a height of 37 millimeters, a width of 61 millimeters at the front flare and 66 millimeters at the rear. It does have a very similar shape, like I said before, to the Viper Ultimate, which has a length that's just a little bit longer and a width that is a little bit smaller than the Model O wireless. That's why I also would recommend this mouse if you do like the shape of the Viper Ultimate, but you wanted to try a mouse that is just a little bit different and has a couple of differences as far as the switches that the triggers use and the side buttons, and just an overall different feel of the mouse. My hands, for reference, are 17 by 9 centimeters, which I would definitely say is on the smaller side of hands, and I do find this mouse to be comfortable in a palm grip, a claw grip, and a fingertip grip. I do prefer this mouse for probably a claw or a palm grip over fingertip, just because of the mouse, even though I do use it for fingertip most of the time, and that's just because that is my main play style. I really don't like to have to use palm or claw grip when I'm playing competitively. When I am testing mice out, I will go into aim labs and test the mice out in claw and palm grip, and also my main fingertip grip, and I did find this most comfortable in palm and claw just because of the shape of the mouse. It doesn't have the most pronounced hump, at least with the main apex of the hump being in the middle of the mouse, so there is a little bit of support in the back of the mouse for your claw grip, but overall the palm grip did feel nice since it does feel pretty balanced. But like I mentioned before, this mouse does work for about every grip style just because it does have a pretty versatile ambi shape, but I do prefer it for palm and claw grip. Onto the value proposition, like I mentioned before, this mouse is on the lower side as far as pricing, coming in at $80. It is cheaper than the Aerox 3, the Viper Ultimate, and the G Pro Superlight. I do think it is a good recommendation to most people just wanting to try their first wireless gaming mouse, just because of the lower price, and combine that with the fact that it does have a good shape that can accommodate multiple grip styles. As finding a mouse pad that suits this mouse the best, I tried this on the Glorious Ice Pad, which my review is coming out for that later this week, but also I tried it on the Key Company mouse pads like this one. Has a pretty good glide. I found it to be the best suited with the Odin mouse pads, the Odin Gaming cloth mouse pads. Those went really well with the Model O wireless, and while I did do an extensive amount of time on this mouse pad just because I really like the aesthetic of it, I also had a good time using it on the Odin pads, and they were just really great on there. Also were great on the Matrix mouse pads. I did like them the most on the Odin pads. I found a lot of control, speed, and they just went really good with the cheese skates. but most mouse pads that I did use worked fantastic with this, and you should be good to go. But on the Glorious Ice Pad, it was extremely fast, and I'll go more into detail on that in my review. But overall, Odin mousepad, Matrix mousepad, something like a SteelSeries QCK, any type of cloth mousepad should work perfect with the G-Skates and the Model O wireless. Looking at the build quality, there were no creaks anywhere on the mouse. I didn't have any issues with that. I could press really hard on the mouse and just really no creaking anywhere. Glorious, that was the side button, but Glorious did a lot better job on the QC as far as I can tell on the Model O wireless. Like I said, this was not sent out for review, so I don't even have like a reviewer copy. And I am really glad that I got one of the first copies because this is an overall solid mouse. There is a little bit of like a push in right here, but no actual creaking. And I gotta give Glorious props for making the actual quality of the Model O wireless a lot better than my original Model O, which had some issues. Looking at the G-Skates, they are made from PTFE material. They are good mouse feet. I do prefer the feet on the Pulsefire Haste over the G-Skates on the Model O. That is partially due to the positioning of the feet as well as just the thickness and the amount of space they take up on the bottom of the mouse. I do wish Glorious would just give us 2 larger feet to put on the mouse as opposed to just only the 4 smaller feet on the bottom of the mouse, just because I think that'd be great. And honestly, the 2 larger feet from my experiences do give you a much better glide on your mouse pad. But with the Pulsefire Haste, they also did a great job with the glide, and just I think that just come down to the quality of the feet and the thickness of the feet as well. Like I said, the Glorious G-Skates are really good mouse feet, but they're definitely not as good as the feet on the Pulsefire Haste. And also I do like the feet on the Hottie probably more than the feet on the Model O wireless. Both are good, and you can pretty much use the Model O wireless on any mouse pad. I didn't have issues. It's not like terrible, but I do think the feet could be improved, or just make the feet take up more space on the bottom of the mouse pad. If Glorious could do that, that would be fantastic. So with the Glorious core software, it is a much simpler and just easier to use UI. It's a lot cleaner, and it just clearly lays out everything you need to know. As far as your lighting, you can change the rate at which the light is accelerating. You can change it whether you want to have it faster or brighter on the wired or the wireless mode. You can change from the Glorious mode to other breathing effects and single color modes. You can also turn off the LEDs completely. You can set keybinds, disable buttons. I personally always disable the DPI button under the scroll wheel since I really never use it. Like, I never change my DPI mid-game, and if I do want to change my DPI, which I rarely do, but I'll just go into the software and do it. You can also change the performance of your mouse. You can set the lift-off distance. It goes as low as 1 millimeter and as high as 2 millimeters. You can also change the deep bounce time. I personally keep mine at around 4 milliseconds. You can change the pulling rate between 125, 250, 500, and 1000 hertz, keeping mine at 1000 hertz. And you can set the DPI like I said before, and color coordinate it and change the DPI button under the mouse. You can set up profiles, profile 1, 2, or 3, so up to 3 different profiles. It does give you a lot of customization. You have option to do macros, multimedia, shortcuts, and all different types of things within the software. It is intuitive, easy to use, and I had no problems with that. It's one of those things that you can set it, forget it, and then you don't really have to worry about it after that. So do I recommend this mouse, and who is it for? So the Model O wireless easily gets my recommendation in a wireless gaming mouse in 2020. It overall gives you a solid value proposition, coming in at $80, well below the competition. You get everything that you need here. The shape is good, accommodates pretty much every single grip style, although I do prefer, like I said, for palm or claw grip users, and this is for someone with a medium or larger hands. I personally am already used to my Model O minus, so while I did use this for my review extensively, and just because it is a great wireless gaming mouse, I probably will wait for the Model O minus wireless before I start seriously consider using this mouse as a daily driver, just because of the size. Like I said, I do prefer it for a larger or medium sized hand. I do think my hands are pretty small, so this is a great mouse, but I really need that Model O minus soon. Glorious. I didn't have any problems with any sweating or like the coating of the mouse getting in my way or feeling weird if my palms were a little bit sweaty in an intense match. The arm mount switches are great triggers under the mouse. The side buttons are good, give you solid crispy clicks. and I like the build quality of the mouse. Didn't have any issues with the build quality, so it does get my recommendation, and this is a solid pickup in my opinion. And if you're contemplating getting the Model O wireless versus the other options we mentioned, here's my take on that. If you really like Logitech, the shape of the Superlight, and you were a fan of the original G Pro wireless, then go for the Superlight. It's essentially an upgraded version of that mouse. The $150 price tag can be a hard pill to swallow, but it's definitely an amazing mouse that has its own appeal. If you were deciding whether to get the Model O wireless or the Viper Ultimate, I will most likely go with the Model O wireless since it is nearly half the price and has a similar shape, but when it does go on sale at around the same price as the Model O, then I would go for the Viper Ultimate. And unless you are a SteelSeries fan that claw grips with medium to smaller hands and are willing to put up with subpar build quality and just bad feet, then go with the Aerox 3 wireless. I really did not like that mouse, and they have a lot of issues to work out. Not only in my review, but most people have had serious issues with the feet and just being a QC nightmare. So until SteelSeries fixes some of those glaring issues, it's going to be a real hard sell, and you have to really have specific needs for that mouse. I hope that input helps you in your purchasing decision. Like usual, I'm going to put the links for purchase down below in the description, so if you want to get your hands on the Model O wireless, you can go ahead and do that. And if you're new here, I make all types of content on tech and gaming, so if you're new to the channel, consider checking it out and subscribing. If you have any questions, I do go live at Clique C3 on Twitch. If you guys want to come check that out, say hi, ask any questions, talk about tech, or just chill, vibe, and play some games. Like always, you guys are awesome. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Oh,